Hi there. My wife and I, we've got some outdoor cats we feed. Most of them have been TNR'd, but not all of them. We're still working on catching a couple of them. We've got Swirly and Gray Kitty and Scarface and Son of Scarface, then a few others that come and go. Swirly's our main resident here in our yard though. But we have some automatic cat feeders we have set up to feed them. Morning and evening, give them a little bit more food in the winter than we do in the summer. But in addition to feeding the outdoor cats, we wind up feeding the possums and the raccoons. And occasionally we feed some foxes. We had a mama fox and a few kits a couple years ago. But anyway, we use these pet safe cat feeders. They're the best that we've found in terms of feeding outdoors. They hold a lot of food, so we can fill them like once every 2 weeks and it's no problem. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail, but as you can see, this one doesn't have much covering it, and this one has a much better cover. And we've had to put these on here to raccoon proof them. This design feeder is the best one we've found in terms of being raccoon proof, but even it needs some modifications, and we're going to discuss those. And that's the reason I'm making this video. Is I've gone on YouTube and I've seen people make videos of their attempts to raccoon proof things, and frankly those videos just irritated me, and you could tell just by looking at the very beginning they were doomed to failure. People, I don't want you to show me what you think might work. Show me something that's actually worked. These have actually worked. Now we do have one upgrade we're doing, but let me just show you what we're dealing with here. I don't really care so much about feeding the possums and the foxes, and I don't care if the raccoons eat out of the bowl. We don't give them as much food at night, so there's not as much here as overnight. But I don't want the raccoons getting into the main food reservoir. So let's take a look at what we're dealing with here with the raccoons. When I take this protective cover off, take a look at the lid that comes on this cat feeder. You can see the damage that the raccoons have done to it. They've broken it. All of these white marks all through here are all the claw marks and the teeth marks from the raccoon. We have to protect the feeder from all of this damage, which is what this cover does, in addition to protecting the feeder from rain and then also from UV. If you take a look at the top of this feeder here, it's got a little screen display, and this suffers a lot of UV damage, so we need to protect this. This feeder is several years old from before we had even evolved this cover design, so it's getting up in age, it's ready to be replaced. Same thing as this one. It's not quite as bad, but you can see it's got an even older design, and amazingly the raccoons haven't got into it. But now is the time to go ahead and upgrade these, make them both raccoons proof with the new feeders. Okay, this is the pet feeder that we use. Pet Safe Healthy Pet Simply Feed Automatic Pet Feeder. It's a decent size, schedules up to 12 meals a day, 1/8 to 4 cups, so you've got quite a range there for however many cats you might be feeding, or even dogs. Opening it up, to show you the features that we like about it the most. There's a bowl with a ring that attaches in the front. This will hold the bowl in place while you're feeding. As you can see, it's got a rather cavernous capacity there for holding a lot of food. We found that this feeder doesn't like sharp angled crunchies, friskies and things like that. What it does like is round ones. We like to use the Costco Maintenance Scout. It's a little hockey puck sort of shaped disc, little round pellets of food. Works really good in this feeder. It will jam from time to time, but not that often. So the food will go down into the bottom of here, and it lands on this conveyor belt. Conveyor belt brings it up, and then it will drop out of the hopper and into the food bowl. So when the other critters besides the cats come, they will reach up inside here, but all they can get at is the food that's right here at the very top. All the food on the conveyor, all the food inside this bin is safe from them. So it limits the amount of damage they can do. But now this little plastic flap here, it'll eventually break off. Don't worry about it. It doesn't do much good. Now, problem is that this feeder as it comes is really good for indoor cats. But when you're dealing with raccoons, they can get this lid off and this piece just lifts off real easy. So that's what we need to fix. We need to secure this bin in place onto the base. We need to protect the whole thing from rain, and we need to protect this front screen from the sun. So those are the things that we will address, and then we need to make sure the bowl stays in place. So those are the modifications we are going to make to it. Okay, let's get going on building this. These are the tools and supplies that you're going to need. You're going to need a square. This is a 24-inch framing square, but any sort of square and something that lets you measure will get the job done. You're going to need a Sharpie. I have 3 just to make things clear for the video, but 1 will get you done. Hammer, pair of metal shears, stubby screwdriver to match your bolts, 7/16 inch wrench, a drill with a 5/16 inch drill bit. You need a pair of clamps. These are welding clamps. You can use wood clamps. You can have a friend stand on it, whatever. Just something to help you hold things in place. And then on your supplies, you're going to need a 2-foot by 2-foot sheet of aluminum. This is 22 gauge. I purchased it at Lowe's for about 35 bucks. You can probably find it for less online somewhere. Then I have some 1/4 bolts. 2 of them are 1.25 long. That's the length you need for that. And then you need 2 others that can be the same length or a little bit shorter. 4 1/4 nuts to match, and then 2 wing nuts. And then I've got some pipe hanger strapping. Cost for all of that was, I had this in my garage, but $5 or less. And then I've got a sheet of just scrap wood that I'll use as a backer for when I'm drilling. So let's get going. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a line down the center of my piece of aluminum. So since it's 24 inches on the side, I'm just going to make a mark at 12 inches. 12 inches. Connect the lines. Now we'll use this line for a lot of our other measurements and to just make sure that we have things in place. Next thing I want to do is I want to measure 6 inches up this line, and I want to make a mark right there. Next, take the bin cover off of your cat feeder and center it right on the mark. Make sure you got it centered front and back there, and then trace around it. When you get to this bend here, make a mark on each side where the bend occurs. Flop it forward. Keep going. Don't worry about getting that part in the middle. We'll catch it in just a second. Okay, you should have your outline connected across the front. Now, from here on, we're going to use a blue Sharpie and a red Sharpie. I'll use the blue Sharpie wherever it is I intend to bend the aluminum, and I'll use a red Sharpie everywhere I intend to cut the aluminum. First mark we want to make is 5 inches from our outline. And then just come out 6 inches or so on each side with a bend line. Next, I want to come out exactly 5 inches from my outline. Make my line and then make a little end on it so I'm sure exactly where it ends there. Do the same thing on the other side. 5 inches, little notch so I can see where it is. Next, I want to lay my straight edge from all the way from the front, right at this mark, and then right where it touches my outline, which should be right about where it bends. Then make myself a bend line going all the way forward on each side. And then coming off the back of that line, I'm going to switch to red. I'm going to make a cut line. Just extend it on to the edge of the metal in red. Now, next, coming off of this angled line, I want to measure back 5 inches for a bend line and then 6 inches for a cut line. So I'll make marks of 5 and 6 at the back, and then at the front I'll make my same 5 and 6 inch marks, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. 5 inch bend, 6 inch cut, 5 inch bend, 6 inch cut, and then connect your marks with a line all the way front to back. Repeat for the other side. Okay, next, what we want to do is we want to come from this forward edge of the cover 3 inches and mark ourselves a bend line. Do that on each side. Then we want to come out another inch and we want to mark ourselves a cut line. Next, at this angled line, right where we had our point here, where we marked off the 5 inches, make a bend line. Repeat on the other side. Then, at our point where the cover bends there, mark a cut line. We're almost done with our markings. Next, at this point, come out 2 inches. Mark a cut line on each side. Then, last 2 marks to make from this same corner here, come straight back with another cut line. So when you're done making all your marks, your sheet of aluminum should look like this. If it doesn't, get out some acetone or some nail polish remover, use it to wipe off all the Sharpie marks and start over again until you got this. Now that we got that done, let's make our cuts. Okay, so when you're done, you should have a piece of metal that looks like this. So now let's get to work on bending everything into shape. Now for the bending, we got several bends we're going to make. We're going to make some sharp 180-degree folded back on itself bends along the edges that will contribute a lot to the stiffness of the metal and help it hold its shape. And then we've got some other bend lines where we just make some 90-degree bends to get our final shape on things. So let's get going. We'll do the sides first. So to bend this, I'm going to use the edge of my plywood here. It's got a nice sharp corner. Anything with a sharp corner will work. So put your bend line right along that edge. Put your straight edge on it, and then clamp it down. Or get your friend to stand on it. Then just take your hand, slowly bend it down. Work your way back and forth along the edge. Once you got it mostly there, take your hammer, hammer along the edge. You want to get as sharp of a bend as you can there. Once you've got it to 90 degrees, unclamp it, turn it over, put your straight edge back in the bend, clamp it down again, keep bending. Bend it down by hand. Till you get most of the way there. Pull your clamps and straight edge out, and just hammer down the edge. Then we'll repeat for the other side. Next, we'll do this back edge. Our last edge is this front edge. Now it's going to be a little bit harder to do, but not a lot. Because here at each edge, we've already got the material folded over once. But you can still work it a little bit slower perhaps. You can still get it to fold down. Now, it's coming along pretty nicely. Next, let's do the line in the center here. Now for this one, we don't want to bend it all the way down yet. We just want to bend it a little bit of the ways, give yourselves an indication. So I'm not going to bother to clamp this one. Put it in place, give it a bit of a bend. Now I know where I'm bending. Next, let's tackle these sides. Hang one edge off the plywood just a little bit to account for my bent edge there. You clamp to help hold. Bend things down. And I'll repeat that for the other side. In this case, it's a little hard to position, so I'm actually going to work it the other way around. place. Start my bending. Since I've got it mostly bent there, I'm just going to take it, finish by hand. Now what I want to do is all along this, go ahead and finish bending these so I get a nice 90-degree angle there on all 4 of these. Now, last thing I got to do is these 2 and then finish this bend in the middle. So I'll bend this back down out of my way. Then just eyeball it using the remnants of my line there. Position it, give it a bend. Repeat on the other side. So from where my line crosses to my cut, bend things up again. Now I didn't get it tight enough there in this spot right here, so I'll just give a few knocks with the hammer. Get it where I want to be. Then I will finish bending this one up into place. It'll be hard to hold it in place for it to stay in place by itself, but you can see that I can bring it all together just like that. The other bend we'll want to make is here where these 2 pieces separated. So just hold it and give it a little bit of a bend. Doesn't need to be a lot, just a little bit, just enough to sort of get it going. We'll fine tune that later. Next, we'll start attaching everything together. So the first thing we want to do is we want to secure this along the back. So I'm just going to position these pieces of metal with a little bit of hammer, make everything nice and flat. And then we're going to drill a hole to secure these flaps together. So I'll position this on one piece of scrap wood. I'll just drill a hole here near the edge. Do that on both sides. Once we've got our holes drilled, take our small bolts, put them through the holes. Bolt everything together. Now we have our cover ready to fit onto our cat feeder. Now to secure our cover to the feeder, we're going to be attaching it with bolts on each side. So we need to measure and locate those bolts. So our curved point in our cover, where these 2 pieces overlap, is right down from here. So what we want to do is from this point where the top cover bends, come back about 1/2 inch, and then measure down 4.5 inches. And that should put you right below this lip on the cover, on the main body. So we'll do that on each side. Come back about 1/2 inch, go down 4.5 inches. We'll make our marks. And each of those holes, each of those marks, let's make a hole. So hold it together, nice and firmly, and drill a hole. Repeat for the other side. Once we've got those holes made, we'll take our 1.25 inch long nuts, bolts, and the nuts, thread things through, screw them on. We'll just do it finger tight for the moment, and I'll repeat on the other side. Now let's put our cover back on and slide our raccoon cover over, bend it down, and we'll show on this side. So when I turn it upside down, I've got things in place. You can see where my nut is hitting right there. So what I'll do is I'll take my marker and I'll make a mark right where that's touching. And then I'll make the same on the inside there. Now what I want to do is I measured down 4.5 inches. But I want to give myself just a little bit of slack here to get things into place. So on my cover, I want to make my hole basically almost as low as I can go without going out the bottom of the cover. So I'm making it about 4 3/4. So I'll just make a little dash there. X marks the spot for my next hole. So I'll drill my holes one at a time. So first I'll drill a hole in this side. Then put things back into place again. As I'm looking at it, see my hole lines up, my bolt comes through. So I bend my cover down in the front, and I mark where that hole needs to be. So then I'll drill that hole. Now when I actually attach this cover, I like to put the front piece on first, across the hole. Then the second one. Then take your wing nut, screw it into place. Now you've got yourself a cover that's locked in, protects everything front to back, and then the back. So now we just need to do the same thing for the other side. Once we're done and we have everything tightened, this cover moves a little bit, but everything's fully protected. Here's the old figure we're replacing. It's got the old style, it doesn't have the cover, barely read what the screen says. Not working so well. Time for an update. So let's get this feeder out of the way and put our new one into position. So we have this feeder positioned on a table that's got slats. So what I did was I took a piece of this pipe hanging strapping and I just ran it through around the slats. So if you've got an option to do that, consider that. It's just a little bit easier, but if you don't have that, it's a simple enough solution. What you can do is on this pipe hanger strapping, some of the holes are bigger than the others. The big holes will go right over the bolt. So just bring yourself a piece of strapping big enough to come down to your surface. Cut it off. And then bend it down. And then take a screw and just screw it down to whatever your surface is. Surface of your deck, a big piece of plywood. You need to screw it down to something though, because if not, the raccoons will topple it over. So for this one, we'll just go make do with our loop will work here. So, let's loosen our screws. Attach our strapping. And here's why I'm using a stubby screwdriver, because it's hard to get a full-length screwdriver down inside the cat feeder. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so that positions it, holds it mostly in place. And to hold the rest of it in place, we're going to actually use the bowl. Now you saw me when I took the old one off, I took a screw out. So on your bowl, just take a nail and punch a hole in the middle. And then we'll put that in place. And then just using whatever size screw you got, you want to screw down through the bowl and into whatever the wood is you're mounting it to. And this will serve two things. Number one is it keeps the bowl in place so it doesn't just get knocked about. And it also helps hold it in place from front to back. And whenever you need to refill it, all of this is still in place, good to go. Then all we need to do is fill it up with food. Now what we use are the Costco maintenance cat. It's just some round crunchies, flattened out a little bit. Works just fine. Don't use Friskies or anything with sharp corners. Use something round. It works much better in the feeder. Cover on, program it according to the manufacturer's instructions. Instructions are pretty clear. You shouldn't have any trouble doing that. We use the custom setting, but you can use whatever setting you want on there. Put your cover back on. And you are good to go. You have yourself a raccoon-proof outdoor cat feeder. They can get what's in the bowl. They can get just a little bit of what's here. The main food reservoir is safe from them. For your final cleanup, take some acetone, fingernail polish remover. Either one will work just fine. And clean off all your Sharpie marks. And you're good to go. I hope this works out well for you. If not, let me know in the comments below.